And these things didn't just happen by accident. They happened because we are taking out this power out of Washington, these bad people, and returning it to the American people where it belongs. Just think about Comey and these characters. Think about Comey and the gang. Drain the swamp. Drain the swamp. Comey, Brennan, Clapper, we're draining the swamp, folks. And you think it's easy? It's not easy. It's not easy, but we're doing it. We're getting rid of a lot of bad ones.
On this episode of Just Informed Talk, does the former FBI director James Comey's connections to the world's largest hedge fund and China raise serious questions about his motivations for leaking classified documents which started the fake Russia hoax collusion special counsel investigation by Robert Mueller? We're going to take a look at that, plus a very detailed look at what Godfather 3 may actually mean in relation to the global cabal of elites who are trying to control us. So you guys are going to stick around and check this out. Hey guys, if you're going to be in Miami this October 10th through 12th and you want to check out an incredible event with people like Donald Trump Jr., Sarah Sanders, Charlie Kirk, Jason Chaffetz, Matt Gaetz, and many others, I encourage you to check out the link in the description for the American Priority Conference in Miami. Now, this is going to be an incredible event. We're going to have a charity golf tournament. We're going to have a charity poker tournament. We're going to have a bunch of different guest speakers, including some really important people. So I really think you guys should go check out the link in the description and sign up and come meet me down in Florida this October 10th through 12th in Miami at Trump National at Doral on the Blue Monster, for those of you who know golf. And we're going to have a great time. Again, special speakers include Donald Trump Jr. and Sarah Sanders and many others. So I encourage you all to check that out, and I hope to see you there. Hi, I'm Craig, and welcome to another episode of Just Informed Talk. As you guys know, I always start by saying thank you to everyone who's hit that subscribe button. If you haven't done it, come here, click the big red subscribe button. It makes a huge difference, and I appreciate it every time you guys do it. Now, here's where we're picking up. We left off, obviously, last Q post, 3570, still waiting for the board to come up. It's been exactly a month and a day since the last Q post, and we are waiting for the boards to come back up on 8chan. This will be happening in the next few days, September 5th, presumably, and we'll have to wait and see if that is going to happen. And then once they do come back up, I'm sure Q will have a lot to tell us about what's been going on. But with that being said, I always encourage everyone to come back here, watch these videos, share them on your social media, get the word out that way. If you're scratching your head, go, what is QAnon? What's this guy even talking about? Watch this video. What is QAnon, the Great Awakening? It'll give you a good idea of what we're talking about here and a whole lot more. Also, don't forget, there is algorithmic suppression built in to the search engine at YouTube and Google, and they are trying to suppress this content, whether it's through the suggested video algorithms or the actual search algorithms themselves. So your job, if I could ask you to do one thing, it's free and easy, to help spread this content and to go around the fake news media that's trying to lie to the American people and deceive them, is to share this video and share all these videos after you're done watching them. Or as you're watching, whatever. There's a share button at the bottom of this video. Please hit it. We all know what's happening with YouTube, and it's very obvious and pronounced. So you guys have to help get around that by sharing these videos on your social media. So we have two big stories to talk about today. And first, we're going to talk about a couple news stories, and then we're going to get into the bigger stories. So here we are. Another look at the live radar of this Hurricane Dorian, which has basically come to a screeching halt just before making landfall in South Florida and is apparently looking to make a turn to the north. Now, a lot of the models keep pushing this thing further and further out into the ocean and away from land, but they are still preparing for a devastating landfall. Now, with that being said, nobody's really out of the woods yet. We don't know how these storms move, but one little note, if you want to go back and watch this video, or if you did watch this last video, we talked about some very interesting theories that were bouncing around about how the path of this hurricane has been so incredibly targeted, it would seem. First of all, it made nearly a direct impact in the U.S. Virgin Islands before making its way all the way up into the Freeport in the Bahamas. Now, why is that important? Well, it made almost a dead center impact as a Category 5 hurricane with wind gusts above 200 miles an hour into the recently constructed deep sea Chinese port in just north of a little town called Cooperstown in the Bahamas. Now, why is that important? Well, we talked about here on this channel previously in the last episode. If you guys want to go back and watch that, I recommend you do that. But we talked about previously that this was a newly built port. It was a Chinese-backed venture, and it was going to disrupt a lot of trade and give China a very strategic position right off the coast of the United States. Now, I was talking to a friend today, and we were kicking this idea around, and what came up through the conversation was very interesting. I was trying to explain to them how, we can control weather patterns, right? We can control how, weather patterns come or are created, I should say. And I was trying to explain, I was saying, look, we have HARP, which shoots the microwaves up into the ionosphere and pushes it up and can change the actual jet stream, which can in turn change weather patterns, pushing high pressure systems and low pressure systems in different directions. Now, imagine if we had a few of those arrays set up across a certain amount of area, and we could actually use them to create high and low pressure areas, which could then in turn be used to control and steer a storm like this. I'm just thinking outside the box, I guess, but I was saying the force and magnitude of this hurricane is very similar to, I'm sure, what a very small, limited tactical nuclear warhead would yield. We were talking 400 or 200 mile an hour winds and a huge destruction. That would be equivalent to that kind of devastation from what I said before, a tactical nuclear bomb. And if you think about that, what better weapon than nature itself? Now, I've also said, think about the satellites that we have, the satellites that President Trump is trying to protect by enacting the Space Force, which were previously being used by clandestine actors, but seemingly are in the good guys' hands now. And what do you know? This hurricane just happens to be moving. It slowed down to almost 0 miles an hour. Right now it's moving west at 1 mile an hour, getting ready to turn up north. Now, if this thing skirts the coast and misses everything but destroys this Chinese port, and obviously thoughts and prayers to the Bahamian people and everything that's happening there, nobody wants to see this kind of devastation. But at the same time, it was just a theory we kicked around and said, well, that's interesting. Because judging from where this hurricane made landfall, I am sure that port is completely destroyed. And not to mention what I had talked to you guys before about how you could launch all types of operations in that, although it would be very tough. SEALs can do anything. Let's put it that way. So, of course, here's the projected path. And look, it looks like it's not even going to make landfall. It looks like it's just going to come up, make a hard right, and just going to skirt all the coast. And the only effect that it will have is that it hit the Virgin Islands and then came up here as a Category 5 and slammed into Freeport in the Bahamas. So, just throwing that out there, guys, to think about. Just a question. RFK, apparently the assassin, Sirhan, was stabbed in prison. Now, this person's obviously an old man, mentally deranged person who went in and shot the Robert F. Kennedy when he was running for office. This is a very infamous person, but what I think is interesting about this case, the only thing I want to talk about very briefly is the stuff that Q tells us about mind control and how this has been one of the big speculations about Sirhan for a long time, is that he was some sort of programmed asset. Now, what if he's, finally having recollection or finally wanting to talk or whatever, and they're trying to silence that? I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. I thought that was an interesting piece of news that they threw at the bottom and nobody's really talking about, but I just thought I'd bring it up. Now, here's one of the big ones. This talks about Godfather 3, and I'm going to read through this Anon's set of posts here that put together perfectly the connections between the Godfather 3, why Q keeps mentioning it, and how it pertains to the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, the Soroses, and the Sauds in relation to the movie itself, its plot, and what could be happening in real life today. So I'm just going to start reading here. Quick disclaimers, they say before to say they're going to only reference Q drops will be used in the most meaningful excerpts, and that they will be shining a light on Catholic crimes, but bigoted comments against the edifice of the church get blocked like they always are. And I will second that, remark. We're not here to fight with other Christians. We're here to expose corruption, right? If this is the fact of the matter. We're going to look at this theory, and I'm going to let you guys decide. I'm not going to tell you what to think. I'm just going to read this to you. So it says, and mind you, this is not my opinion. This is me presenting you this person, this Anon's opinion about what could have been connected between the ideas of the Rothschild, the Saud, what Q's told us, the Rockefellers, the Catholic Church, Godfather 3, how this all connects. So let's get, I'm just going to kind of read this. I hope you guys can keep up. Let's get to distressing Q post or drop 189, the biggest reality check ever. All that you know to be right is wrong. The cult runs the world. This is a complex thread, so I will present the conclusions up front. It's about the makings of the cabal, how the Rockefellers were succeeded by George Soros, and how cabal instated the fake pope. Q makes it clear back in drop 133, who are the puppet masters? Saud, Rothschild, Soros. We know that. Saudis, the Rothschilds, and the Soroses. Trillionaires. And it gives us this post where Q confirmed that for us, making the three sides of the pyramid. Rothschilds, cult leaders, control banks, financial institutions, the church, fake pope, House of Saud, oil technology companies, sex haven for child trafficking, control US, UK politicians. Soros controls transnational organizations, the operator of slush funds. And it shows you the pyramid that Q basically illustrated for us. At the beginning of POTUS's mandate, these three families had a tyrant's grip on Earth, controlling the geopolitical realities of the Earth or of the planet to fit their NWO agenda. They had the whole world feeding them as they left us nothing but crumbs. What about The Godfather 3, the movie? Quote, the only core wealth in the world is children, more than all the money, power on earth, or all the money, power on the earth. Michael Corleone. Okay, so he's saying that children are more valuable than anything else. After a life of crime, and this is explaining The Godfather 3. After a life of crime, Michael Corleone wants to complete the seemingly impossible transition into legality and respectability. He plans on doing it through his wealth, his family, and his connections to the Catholic Church. The Corleones have now, by now, surrendered their criminal enterprises to Joey Zaza, a younger, hungrier gangster. Michael makes a huge donation to the poor people in Sicily via the church and is given the commendator of the Order of Saint Sebastian. He is well aware the money will never reach the needy. He is playing the game with ulterior motives. He tries unsuccessfully to get into business with a Vatican company, his ticket to final respectability. He is caught instead in a web of corruption in the church's finances. He is advised by a good, honest priest who becomes pope, only to be poisoned by the corrupt people he was about to expose. This is at once about John Paul I, but also about the ousting Benedict XVI. Michael's plans are thwarted by the crooked Archbishop Gilday in cahoots with his enemies. In the end, the tensions of leaving criminal life and trying to enter into Vatican business invite such a level of evil that unavoidable tragedy abates over his family. So in this Anon's interpretation, they say, now if you follow that, basically that's what Q's been saying Godfather 3 since day one, in referencing the premise that according to this person, the Rockefellers were the Corleones in this example. They tried to buy their way into a position of power through the Catholic Church, only to be betrayed and overthrown by Soros, who then joined with the Sauds and the Rothschilds. So we're going to just keep that in your back pocket. So in this interpretation of the Godfather 3, we have the mighty Rockefellers transitioning from robber barons to philanthropists and then out the cabal for good. David Rockefeller, the youngest son of John D., turned out to be the last power broker in the family. And their Joey Zaza, who takes their share of the cabal, is Hungarian financier George Soros. Soros works in tandem with the Rothschilds, cult leaders and controllers of the Pope. The third facet of the pyramid is the Saud dynasty in Saudi Arabia. They can be represented, or best represented, by Prince Ali bin Talal, who held sway over both Clintons and the Bushes. The globalist overlords put in place a black-controlled usurper pope. This is according to this person. These are not my thoughts. I'm just telling you what this anon said. The cult spins a global spider web that keeps the planet in constant turmoil, creating multiple conflicts as ways of keeping markets open to their criminal activities. Q-Drop36, why did George Soros transfer his wealth to this charity? His Open Society Foundations banned from Russia for representing a, quote, threat to the foundations of the constitutional system and the security of the state, were allowed in this country somehow. The reason why can be found in this executive order from December 2017 that provides for asset seizure from persons involved in serious human rights abuse and corruption. So that's what we've been told before, and we've speculated that when President Trump signed that executive order where he could take away the money from people who are involved in these sick, evil crimes, they started transferring their money into these charities so they couldn't have it taken. And a lot of these first posts back in November 2017 made many references to Godfather 3. It says, to fight the cabal, POTUS also has allies around the world, and they have planned, installed, and activated the beam of light. So it happened, the onslaught of the storm. Good Saudi King Salman unleashed his anti-corruption purges against hundreds of billionaire princes and ministers, broke one side of the cabal's pyramid, and shut the Saudi sex slave safe haven, freeing 3,000 children at once. This is all reported on, but yet to be completely confirmed, other than we do know the Saudis did arrest half of the princes in a basically overnight sweep, which seemed to be fighting corruption. Saudi Arabia was the bloody wonderland, the safe haven of child sex trafficking, and the most disturbing allegations are made against HRC, but so far they have not been substantiated in public. Again, reiterating, this is speculative and very possible, though. Under the former rulers of the House of Saud, the King of Saudi Arabia turned into one of the biggest donors for the Clinton Foundation. We already knew that. One of the most powerful men in the kingdom was arrested too, one of the leaders of the cabal in Saudi Arabia. Prince Ali bin Talal is one of the richest men on earth and was said in the Q drops to be one of the puppet masters of American politics. Al-Walid's philanthropic foundation has given $1 million or more in cumulative donations to the Carter Center and between $100,000 to $250,000 to the Clinton Foundation. So they were buying influence. Why would a Saudi prince be giving $300,000 to the Clinton Foundation? Do you think he's really just trying to fight global poverty or whatever? No, he's buying influence. That's what the whole thing was set up for, right? And if you keep searching, you'll find more. Q told us that the events in Saudi Arabia were to be replicated elsewhere, and that all democratic bad players of the Hussein administration using unsecured emails were involved in this Godfather 3. Again, Bill Clinton is already in legal trouble. This is one that we got really early, where he was in Drop 94 saying he wants to make a deal. Again, the promise of events in Saudi Arabia being replicated around the world. Signature, definite meaning. Again, it's just going into some of the details of the Q post itself. Then it says John Rockefeller was the son of a traveling salesman, sold elixirs. How was he the king of the world? Again, it just goes into a few other things. But then they talk about the Lord's Prayer and how Q made this observation about the Lord's Prayer being changed, and how that connected back to a signal, according to this, from the Pope that they were basically going to cooperate with Trump and the United States and the White Hats in what they're trying to do globally, and the coalition that was put together. We were told and warned to watch out for the evil. And again, it just keeps on going about the Pope and how that they're in cahoots. And again, another example where they talk about this being the Lord's Prayer being changed and how it's a signal. Then it talks about this guy, Cardinal George Pell. It says in May, this character enters the story. Q drop 998, the usurper Pope, according to this person, Francis, obeyed the master, now convicted pedophile Archbishop Pell, who was a Clinton cabal plant. So I guess it turns out that Cardinal Pell was involved in, or Archbishop George Pell, I should say, was involved in the Vatican's economic activities, one of the top players in that regard. And it says a group of Catholic leaders has denounced a coup in Vatican orchestrated by Democrats. And then it talks about how the Podesta emails uncovered John Podesta talking about the call for a Catholic spring, like the Arab Spring, to take over the Catholic Church, to infiltrate it. How it's very well documented through the mainstream media that the Democrats did infiltrate the Catholic Church and then place their Pope. Pell was ousted, then convicted for abusing children, and so on. This is an interesting thread. I want to leave it to you guys to come read the rest. I'll leave a link in the description. But look, there's a lot more to that story. But with that being said, let's get into this story real quick. James Comey attacking the president, saying that America deserves better. Here's the actual quote. You can see what I responded with. It says, it's Sunday morning. A devastating hurricane is approaching. A gunman just slaughtered innocents in Texas, but the president of the United States is wasting time airing personal grievances and live tweeting Fox. Narcissism is not leadership. America deserves better. Well, I said, says the guy trying to use a devastating natural disaster and a mass shooting to gaslight the public into believing that the president whom he sought to illegally overthrow is somehow unfit for office because said president exposed his crimes. Well, speaking of Comey and his crimes, let's go back and take a very quick look at the company that he used to work for. They are self-proclaimed. They advertise themselves as the world's largest hedge fund. And in this article from Politico, they said the weird hedge fund that perpetuated James Comey for his Capitol Hill hot seat. How did this all come to be? Well, after James Comey left government originally, he spent 3 years being grilled or probed as an executive at Bridgewater Associates, the $150 billion hedge fund founded by Ray Dalio that the New Yorker has labeled the world's richest and strangest hedge fund. So this is interesting. Remember what Q has told us originally. Two things that we've been told a lot are watch the water and find the bridge. Now, is it a coincidence that James Comey just happens to work at a company that's the world's largest hedge fund that is called Bridgewater Associates, where he was making reportedly over $6.6 million a year as a quote-unquote executive, whatever that means. Now, what did this hedge fund actually do? If you look at the bridge, as I said before, they self-advertise as the world's largest hedge fund. And if you actually check out their website, the first thing that comes up when you open their page is their research on China. Interesting. The world's largest hedge fund, obviously working to study and to track and to integrate their financial services into the Chinese economy, who happened to be paying the former director of the FBI $6.6 million a year as an executive, who happened to leak classified confidential papers to the media in order to start the Russia witch hoax, or the Russia collusion special counsel investigation, which was a complete witch hunt and hoax that was used to try to unseat a duly elected president who was trying to enact and effectively win a trade war against the Chinese. Are you starting to make the connections that I'm starting to make between why James Comey is such an integral player in all of this and why Q has made so many references to Comey and how it's very possible that his connection to this Bridgewater Associates and his connection to the Russia hoax collusion investigation may be completely interconnected, and that the Chinese may have been buying people in this country for a lot longer than we may realize, and that there was a plan that was put in place by the Chinese in order to overthrow our government from within by buying off of all of our top officials. That's a good question, man. I wonder why the mainstream media doesn't do any digging on all this. That's my question. Why does it take us here to do this? Because and it's all very simple, I guess. I shouldn't ask that question because I know the answer. The answer is because they're complicit in this cover-up. And the fact of the matter is, if you look at what Q has told us, he's told us the first time we heard about the bridge we heard about this guy, Stanislav Lunev. Now, who is Stanislav Lunev? Stanislav Lunev was a Soviet officer who was one of their high-ranking intelligence officials who, get this, he worked for the KGB, their version of the CIA, whatever, GRU, and eventually was stationed in 1978 in Singapore, then moved to China. Then, in 1988, he came to the United States and was stationed here. So he was a Russian intelligence agent who spent 8 years in China before coming to the United States, where he then, after 4 years, decided to defect to the United States. This guy sounds like typical double, triple agent, right? And he was telling us about the nuclear sabotage operations that the KGB were planning, and he was giving us all this information about the poisoning of the Potomac River, which was a operation that they had planned in case we go to war. Now, what if Stanislav Lunev defected from Russia to China, then China spent 8 years training him on how to infiltrate the United States. Then he comes to the United States, acts like he's a Russian spy, then decides to take all that information that he's already given to the Chinese under, mind you, George Bush the first, and defect to the United States, then giving them all of that information, but planting himself as a fake Russian spy who's actually a Chinese spy. I mean, look, you can't make this stuff up. And this is what Q was telling us to understand about everything that we're covering here. Now, when Q says the bridge, and we hear a lot about Watch the Water, Bridgewater Associates, the world's largest hedge fund. What do? They're a strange hedge fund. Probably they're strange because they're in the business of trying to infiltrate national governments in order to do exactly what we're uncovering with Jeffrey Epstein. The whole blackmail thing, the spy games. These are intelligence agencies that are infiltrating and engaging in espionage, sabotage, and worse. Right? But the worst part is also, it's not just the intelligence agencies. A lot of them have just been co-opted and or infiltrated by these globalists, these trillionaires like we talked about in the previous thread. So this is an interesting place to start digging. I'm leaving it here for you guys to check out. Obviously, I want you guys to go and dig deeper on this, but that's pretty much where I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. A few more things before we go. First of all, watch these videos, share them on your social media. Like I said before, that helps the channel out big time. And hit the subscribe button if you haven't. Make sure you hit the bell for notifications. Also, leave your thoughts, theories, and insights below. I want to hear what you guys have to say about all of this. Tell me what you think about everything we're talking about. If you have anything to contribute, there's a great conversation going on in the comments below. So scroll down, check it out, read through them. There's just a lot of smart, intelligent, thoughtful, wonderful people, in my opinion, down there making very big contributions on a regular basis. So if you don't scroll down through the comments, you're actually missing out on a lot of what this video has to offer. So please do that and leave your thoughts, theories, and insights below. Also, be brave. If you have a Internet Explorer, Google Chrome, Mozilla Firefox, whatever your internet browser is, well, one thing that we're all annoyed by is the ads. And Brave Browser gives you a great opportunity to get rid of those. What is it? It's pretty simple. You come here, click this link, you download the Brave Browser, you install it on your computer, and then you run it just like you would any other internet browser, just like Google Chrome, just like Internet Explorer. What I like about it is it actually blocks the ads and makes your internet experience that much better. What you guys might like about it also is that it does make a contribution to the channel for you downloading this browser and using it through the link in the description. And every time you visit my YouTube channel on this browser, they'll actually make another contribution. So it's a way to support the channel and it's a win-win situation because you'll get all of your ads blocked and it'll make a better internet experience for you. So download the Brave Browser. Check it out in the description. Also, come find me over here on Twitter at JUSTINFORMED. We can have a great conversation over here and give me a follow and we can talk and we can just keep having a dialogue going. Also, don't forget to check out JustinformedNews.com, the official website for Just Informed Talk. Links to the Q stuff, different news sites, the latest news. And of course, right here we have the latest videos from the channel. That's JUSTINFORMEDnews.com. Go check that out as well. A few other ways you can help out the channel, both financially. You can come over here to Patreon, patreon.com. It's a crowdfunding website. It's a monthly donation. You hit this button, you make a donation, set it and forget it. I know you're helping create content on this channel on a regular basis, and I can't tell you how much you guys matter in keeping this channel alive against all of the demonetization that YouTube has come after my channel with, and a whole bunch of other channels. So your support here for this channel makes a huge difference, and thank you for that. Also, I have a GoFundMe set up if you want to make a one-time or anonymous donation. Links to everything will be in the description. Now, before we go, we do a segment at the end of each one of these episodes called God's Grace is Greater, where we talk about God's grace and how it is truly greater. Tonight, I want to talk about one verse in particular. It's out of the book of 2 Corinthians, and it's from chapter 1, verse 12. And I'm going to read it to you, and then we'll talk about it. It says, "For our boast is this, the testimony of our conscience, that we have conducted ourselves in the world, and especially towards you, with God-given sincerity and purity, not by fleshly wisdom, but by God's grace." And we always talk about that here on the channel. God's grace is greater. What is God's grace? What does that mean? It means that. That's exactly what it means right there. What are we going to boast about when we are standing in front of the Lord and He is weighing our lives and looking at us in judgment? What are we going to do? Our boast is not going to be of things that are fleshly, the wisdom of this world. It's meaningless. It's God's wisdom that we will want in abundance. It's God's incredible gift to us that we just have to embrace. It's there. It's not going anywhere. God's love is eternal. He loves you. But you have to remember that as we live in this world, we just have to remember that by conducting ourselves in a righteous way, living for God and having a clear conscience is what is most important. And that's something that once you enact that in your life, you can help others get there too. I promise you that. But you just have to open your heart up, say a prayer, and ask God, come into my heart and deliver me and help me find a way to be that righteous man or woman. And that's where I'm going to go ahead and leave it. I want to say thank you guys for watching. Come here, click the big red subscribe button if you haven't. Make sure you hit the bell for notifications, and don't forget to hit it, punch it, tap it, elbow it, whatever. Hit the like button if you guys like this content and want to see me make more. That's going to be it for me. I want to say thanks for watching Just Informed Talk. My name is Craig. Godspeed and God bless each and every one of you, Patriots.